Well. Just as Norwich City are looking for options to try and change this overhaul in bad results, so are the MFW team, as I'm hosting tonight, which is a very interesting thing. But forget about that. Today we are speaking about the world of Norwich City and the absolute load of rubbish that pretty much was seen generally. There's no other PG way to put it than that, really. But before we delve and dive into everything regarding Norwich City, we've got a certain Matthew Saunders, and it is his first Nodge Spotlight day today. So, first of all, Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. It's been a while since I've even been on the podcast, let alone the NODGE Spotlight. But it's great to be making my debut. I feel like an academy player getting 5 minutes at the end of a game.
That sounds very much like Armando Smith. God bless his soul. Yeah, I think when I saw him play at right wing back the other day, I was very surprised. But it was also one of those things to myself where I was like, generally, like, what have we actually become seeing that the poor kid? He's such a good attacker. He can play right wing, left wing striker. No. We'll play him in the last line of defence, right wing back. But there you go. We'll try not to speak about too much of that right wing back substitution, as there's loads of other things to touch on today. But I think we'll start really in the most sensible place to actually start, and that is the game against Sheffield Wednesday last night. Obviously, we're recording on Thursday, and the game happened obviously on Wednesday, as it is Sheffield Wednesday as well. So, sorry for the puns which might have been misintended there, but I'm really curious to know, Matthew, mate, what you actually thought of that game overall, because it was one of those games again, first half especially, how I interpret it anyway. One of those where do you see what I'm doing there with one of those? But I'm sorry about that. I I think I I was really appalled by that first half showing. I really was. I felt our intent on the ball was completely lackluster. There was no forward thinking, no dynamism, and just the confidence was just completely washed. And then obviously as well, the Shane Duffy incident as well also occurred. And I think when I was watching the game at half time, and just switching off from that first half, analysing it overall, I was just in complete shock, really, in terms of how we can like go to a new level of bad. It was just generally awful. And I don't like to be sat on my couch and just watching, like, laughing on occasions, but I generally just was, because I could just tell how the game was going to go. I mean, fair play to Barry Mann, an absolutely fantastic goal, and you can't take any credit away from whatsoever. But the the fact that he had so much space to pick out a shot was just such real bad defending from Norwich there. And I really do think in that first half, I think that kind of set the tone for a real poor first half display. And you never really thought how we get back into the game as well. And I know still want to touch on as well Sergeant Smith. Actually, I think he was in the first minute or so. I mean, when Norwich need something to go their way, you need to be looking at players like Sutter to try and get you out of the mess. And the fact he missed such a huge hitter from literally yards out was very worrying. And I felt it's going to be one of those games, and it turned out it probably was one of those games. I know he picked up a point, but we cannot for the life be celebrating a point against a team which are finding it hard to play their players. Like, whichever way you look at it, and the narrative might get spun that a point on the board after losing so many games is a decent result. No, please do not fool yourselves. That was not a good point whatsoever, and nothing should change regardless of his current situation about what's happening right now. That was a point on the board nonetheless, and to be honest with you, it was probably actually the worst outcomes to actually have in the game, because one, we didn't actually win the game, and those 3 points would have been vital. But even if we lost the game, you kind of think maybe it's manning now on even more thinner ice, but who knows? But overall, Matthew, mate, like, what was your overall thoughts on the game? Obviously, apart from us maybe being a bit lackluster.
I mean, it was a role reversal, wasn't it? Because usually we're okay in the first half, and then second half we go to pot. But no, first half we were poor, and then second half actually managed to get something. I really like how you mentioned Sergeant's miss, but I think it's obvious to see that he's so he's got no confidence at all, and it's fair to say, because look at our season. He's had near enough nothing all season, and I respect him as well, because I think a lot of strikers, I mean, even when we scored the goal, I think a lot of strikers, especially when they're out of confidence, haven't scored in a while, is to try and, maybe go around a keeper or try and have a shot. But no, Sargent, great player, gives it to Viscor, and brilliant, well worked goal. Brilliant pass from McLean as well. But, I can talk about the game for ages, but I feel like I'm repeating what we've said for matches for God knows how long. I think actually one of the things I want to talk about most is that Shane Duffy incident with Manning and McLean, because, Shane Duffy does get a lot of stick. And I, agree that some of it is deserved, because I don't think, he's a top tier player, and I don't think he should be starting. No. But I think when you look at the club right now and you look at the players' morales, and two, when you look to see players who actually look like they care about the state of the club is in, I will always have respect for Duffy, because he's always cared about when Norwich are in a bad spot or when players are down or making mistakes. He has always been there to maybe not pick people up, but give them a kick up the backside. And when things aren't going well, then he's that sort of player that you need in that dressing room. Kind of like how people regarded like Ashley Barnes and Onel Hernandez is in that dressing room. Who's going to give the players the kick up the backside that they need? And I think Duffy is that player. But Manning obviously doesn't think so. Him and Manning coming to blows. And I feel like, as well, it's perfect because Duffy's encapsulating us in the way, because no Norwich fan likes Manning. And I don't, if you do like Manning, first of all, you're weird. And two, I don't think you exist. But like, him going up to Manning and actually trying, like, having an argument with him just shows that even I think there's more players that don't respect or don't care for Manning that they just won't speak up about. And Duffy's always that type of person that goes and will give the manager a talking to if need be. And that's what we saw yesterday. And so I really do like Duffy for that. And I feel like if there's a way to encapsulate our game yesterday and encapsulate our season as a whole, I think that is the one moment so far that I'd actually take out that and go, yeah, that's probably how best to encapsulate it. Because someone like McLean, as great as a leader as he is, he's not that type of person that Duffy is, where he'll be more supportive and maybe not as harsh when talking to the players. Whereas Duffy will, I've said this about 3 times already, I'm going to say it again, give him a kick up the backside. And so, but it's what we need. But again, it's not enough right now. And, you mentioned Manning, and we'll talk about him in a second as well, and I suppose all the back room. But it's just, I'll save what I was going to say for when we talk about the backroom staff, because I mean that's a big reason as to why we're down here.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I do agree with the Duffy personality point. I think in some regards he has shown in his Norwich career at times he can be quite a leader in an extent when he can demand from his teammates, but it feels like at times he makes so much bad kind of calls himself. I think he's kind of struggles to actually gain that respect, if that makes sense, and I think that really set the tone as well. Really, I mean, if you're a player and seeing one of your teammates go up to manager like that, I think first of all you're thinking, what are you actually doing? And secondly, like, why has this guy not been subbed off immediately? Because although you can kind of get the passion point to it, and people might actually be okay with that, I think overall the main interpretation about that is it's disrespectful, and it is. And I've never really been a keen Liam Manning fan from this season so far. I mean, I remember his first game against Mill, and some of the stuff I saw even in that game, I was a bit unconvinced, and I was worried about how he's going to try and translate that throughout the rest of the season. And although I don't want to say that I'm right about that or I'm wrong about that, I do. Although I do have some huge flaws about Manning and his style of play, I do feel at times that he has been severely unlucky as well. I mean, some of the misses, I think, and just the shooting accuracy has been so poor in recent weeks. I mean, I look at Oscar Schwartau, and I don't want to be so mean to Oscar, because I feel like he has been one of those players who has stood up and he's shown some real character the last few weeks. But I think the last 2 games against Hull, he should have scored twice, and even yesterday again, he should have scored again there. And although maybe it can be deemed as harsh on Oscar that's the case, it feels like at times, because he is showing that character to try and drive the team forward. I do feel like we're in a situation now where we need points, and Man needs points, and the whole club needs points, and it's those moments where you have to step up, and I also look back at some other games across the season. I look back to the West Brom game at home, and to be fair, I actually agree with Man in that game. We should not have lost that game. I then look back as well at the Derby game. We should have been 1-2 up in the first 20 minutes, and we lost that game. This team is just so good at finding ways to lose and not finding ways to win. And when that becomes so common, the confidence goes and everything does go. So I actually do have some sympathy for Man in that regard. But when I see him do acts like he did last Saturday and go down the tunnel, I mean, that is what I can't stand. And it comes, and that for me, that displayed the highest arrogance. And for me, as a person, as someone who loves watching football and is actually like addicted to football, and just overall as a general human, I absolutely despise people who show arrogance. And right there at that moment, he showed arrogance, and I actually felt bad. That I feel sorry for you in some situations previously, because you cannot be doing that to a fan base when all you bang on every week is about behaviours and processes. If you're going to bang on about that every single week, show some absolute respect and show some bollocks and go to the fans and show that you care and show that you respect us, because at times he feels like, to me, he goes through the emotions and he shows no personality whatsoever. And I do get absolutely so annoyed by it. I really do, because you can be a tactician all you want, but you've got to show humility and a belief that you care about us, the fans and the players and everything like that. And I just don't think he does. And it just comes and I'm sorry, Matthew, because I do just despise arrogance in football, and I think he shows it very frequently. And I think even as well, that comment in the press on Tuesday about, oh well, if you get rid of me, then nothing changes. I mean, for goodness sake, like the person who actually said that comment is a guy that's now got our worst win percentage in Norwich City history, and you're saying quotes like that. I mean, are you absolutely serious? Are you out of your mind? But yet, nothing gets done. Nothing is getting changed, and that's a very, very dangerous situation to be in, because if you've got an owner who is content at having someone at the helm who's got such a bad win percentage this season, it really, really, really does annoy me. It really does, because it shows that you're not caring, you're not listening. I know you went on the radio, and I know you spoke to the fans. I get that, but you can't keep cross-referencing about your famous Milwaukee Brewers or whatever. This is a different situation. You need help, Mark. You need some advice internally at that football club to help you grow this club, because right now all you're getting fed is information internally from Napa and Manning, and of course they're going to be biased. They both want to get paid out their contracts because they do not want to be here. They're arrogant, and if they did want to be here, they would have already gone already. It's simple as that. Like, just show some humility and walk away, because it is generally baffling me and it's just annoying me. I know you want the money, but if you're not delivering and you've got the balls to come out and say to the press every week, oh yeah, this is absolutely fine and this isn't my fault, and if you get rid of me, well, nothing will change. Well, it might not change, but I'll tell you what will change. Something will change if you get rid of Napa, Manning himself, Zoe Webber, Neil Adams. There's 4 people there that need to go, and they'll probably still be here because the board are so comfortable. There's no challenge. There's nothing. And I'm sorry for this absolute monologue, Matthew. I really am. But I just want to get your thoughts on it as well, mate. Like, just generally, like, for you, like, who is more responsible for this mess? Is it Napa? Is it Manning? Or is it just all of them together, which is just annoying you?
To be fair, well, I'm quite glad you're on here, because I've taken a very apathetic approach to Norwich City at this point, because I'm just tired of seeing it all, and I'm tired of getting angry when there's no change. But you, my friend, bring everyone's anger. So you are, what's it called? To the resemblance? Resemblance, we'll say.
That'll
resemblance
do.
of everyone angry. Yeah, that'll do. but I like to just quickly point out one of the things you said about Manning about it, the arrogance and how he's just sort of going through the motions. And I fully agree with you there. But and as well, I think that does have the effect on the players because when you have a manager that does not care that much and is now just hankering for a quick payday, then the players obviously aren't going to do much. There's no point in Manning going and trying to fix things and work on things in training because he doesn't care. And when the players are also in that situation where they're not being trained properly, they're not doing this properly, and they've not got a strong leader, a strong head coach to guide them, then there's no point in giving it your all because you're basically just waiting for Manning to go and then someone else to be brought in. And I feel like that's where we've had a lot of problems over the last few seasons where where players are just sort of used to, okay, well, the manager's going to get sacked at the season, so it doesn't really matter because we know whatever happens, we'll probably end up sacking the manager and getting someone new and a new style of play. So it's whatever. But to go back to your question about who's more at fault, it's just everyone at this point. You know, Manning. I mean, we've talked about Manning, and you've summed up very well there. But Napper as well, and Napper's someone who I've tried to give so much sort of space for because obviously it's his first role as a sporting director, and I think I'm not the biggest fan of Stuart Webber, but I think at some times we did do him a bit harshly. But now it's getting to a point where this is just becoming ridiculous. And the fact that you're coming out there, Manning is the lowest win percentage of any manager in history, in Norwich City history, and yet you're still coming out and saying, yeah, we back him and we want to keep him here, is insane when, you look at teams like Sheffield United, Southampton, some teams in the Premier League as well, West Ham, etc., 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 then actually it's just taking the mickey because they're wanting to act, they're wanting to get themselves out of this predicament. Why don't we? It wasn't too long ago that we were up and in the Premier League, and obviously we all know we did badly then. But even then, we made decisions like when we won against Brentford, we sacked Farker, and then it's sort of gone down from there really, and it's just makes the question of, well, do we actually want to improve the club, or are we just sort of stood here forever and wanting to just whatever happens, and we'll just not really care? And then you got Neil Adams, which what does he do again? Like in the nicest way. Like I'm not even trying to be harsh, but what does he do again? Because you see him in the videos whenever we sign a new player, and you sort of see them go, "Oh yeah, Neil Adams. I forgot he existed." Oh, okay, and then you forget about his existence until the next time he brings someone in, and you go, "Oh, Neil Adams. I forgot he existed." Oh, okay, and then this process repeats, and then Zoe Webber. Oh, I mean, we talk about Ben Napper and whatever else, but Zoe Webber should be taking a bigger part of this as well, as far as I'm concerned. Because from the minute when Stuart left, I was saying, to my dad, who's a big Norwich City fan, I was saying what will probably end up happening is Zoe will become sort of a mouthpiece for Stuart, and in the way the club's are in run right now, it genuinely feels like it because the club's just going into the ground, and these are decisions being made that it wouldn't be remiss of a Stuart Webber era, and it just sort of makes you question why. But obviously, like they'll go up to the Atanasios, who, like you said, don't have much of a clue about owning a football club and the differences between a baseball club in Milwaukee and a football club in Norwich, or just a football club in general. And they'll say, "Oh yeah, we're all going fine," and they'll be like, "Okay, cool. So what's happening with the league?" And they'll go, "Oh well, we're here, but this is what we're going to do to set up." And it's like, I don't want to sit there and go on a rant about Mark Atanasio because I do still believe he's doing the right things for the club as an owner, but in terms of money being pumped in and whatever else stuff that we needed for years, and now our money concerns are sorted. But I think the problem is, the wool's being pulled over his eyes, even though he likes to brag about how it isn't, and it's sort of this typical American behavior where I'm always right and people can't deceive me. But no offense to any Americans, no offense to Josh Sargent, you're lovely, I love your ginger hair. But it's just this thing where I don't know if it's because he's scared to take action because he's thinking, oh, these people have been involved with the club a lot longer than I have. These people have more of a know and more of a grasp than I do of the club. And then we'll wait until I get more of a grasp and then we can look about removing them. Or whether he just doesn't realize the situation we're in. And so I think a decision needs to be made soon with Mark Atanasio. And I think we can, as Norwich fans, we can sit there and sort of complain about, oh, Napa and all this and all that. But actually, at the end of the day, if we're just doing it on like Twitter and Facebook, it doesn't really make a big difference. And I'm not saying to people, oh, go and throw tennis balls on the pitch, because we can't even do that right? We can't even make that look impressive. What I'm saying, like, but even if we're going outside of the ground and just before or after a game and just making it known, because eventually what will happen is, like, it will become big where actually there'll be no way for Mark Nazu to maybe not ignore us, because I don't think he is ignoring us, but he'll have to take more notice of it and take more of a hit home, and he'll go, oh, this is really bad. Look at like the fans; they keep protesting, and as well. And I know we have a really good fan base here, and I know we fill out our grounds a lot. But even just doing like not going to games, because at the end of the day, Mark Anazzo is a millionaire. His main concern will always be money, and so if his cash flow starts being dropped from our football club, then he has to take notice.
Yeah. Some great points there, Matty. And the conundrum which I keep coming back to myself really is, okay, so if you were to sack Ben Napper, how would the process actually go of us getting a new sport director? Because would you trust Mark Atanasio to get as a new sport director when he's got no prior experience at actually getting that in the football industry before? No. So how do you even go about doing that? And this is where I come back to my point where our football team is just fucked. And I'm sorry to swear, I really am, but like I think that's a perfect apt word to try and describe it right now, because there's nothing which is getting changed, and it's so hard to try and think of solutions because you just can't see it happening, and it's just getting embarrassing. And the winners have to say, will my mindset change? No, it won't. It just won't. And because we've seen the same patterns now for the last 4 or 5 years, where they might win one game, but they sure would let you down in like the next 3 or 4. And that is the case. That's just simply the facts. And Liam Manning has expressed some more thoughts actually as well during the last 2-3 months about our injury record. And I've said this on the podcast for the last probably 18 months now, that Norwich have had an injury crisis probably for the last 6 seasons straight. And obviously we heard some noises in the last 2 months that there was some reviews going on about that. But the fact of the matter is, it's happened again. I don't think it's happened to the extent as it has in previous seasons, but Liam Manning seems very, very firm on that line, that injuries have played a huge part. And I was looking at who was out yesterday, and although there was 10 players out, I reckon about five or six of those guys are fringe players, and that's the likes of your Gabe Forsyth, your Elliot Miles, your Slamanis. So a few of those guys are fringe players. So in theory, you've only got about 3 or 4 kind of maybe first team starters who are unavailable. And yes, that can be quite a big blow if those players are important and they've contributed massively. But the fact of the matter is, mate, those players haven't really contributed like amazingly much this year anyway, like the players that have been out. And speaking about the likes of Cordoba, obviously Mahoof is a great talent, but he hasn't really played much this year. Diallo's look good in some stages, but I argue he's probably a bit raw still. Obviously, Chris Gusman as well. But I just want to ask you, Matt, like, do you feel like the injury crisis is this year apparently is a major reason why we've been so bad? Because I intend to disagree with that.
I don't think it's a major reason. I think we've gone over the major reasons just now, but the fact that we are in another injury crisis and that we have 10 players injured right now, yes, okay, maybe 3 or 4 of them are starters, and the rest are fringe players. But the fact that we're in another injury crisis again, we are losing some first team starters and a lot of our depth again for the however many time and however many seasons. What are our physios doing? Like, what is the like? Do we have to get like at this point? Should we just send them up to the North Norwich and just see what happens? Because this private medical facility or wherever they are being treated, it's not good enough. I mean, because whether I don't know whether it is whether it's players being sent back too early or players not fully rehabbing properly or what it is, but this is I don't know any other football team, provided I don't know a lot about other teams in other leagues, for example, but I don't know many other teams that have had a injury similar story to us where we're just having injury crisis season after season. Then we've got to go, oh, well, this crucial player's out. Oh, well, this crucial player's out. Oh, this crucial player's out. And then these players are fringe, but they're still out because of and then we lose all that depth. I don't know. And if anyone does know any other clubs, feel free to comment below about any other clubs that are like that. But it's shambles, really. Like, we are a championship club. Okay, maybe at this point we're meant to be a mid-table championship side. Maybe that's so. But even still, it's shambolic. And I don't think you would find this in any of the top 4 leagues, let alone maybe down the spectrum down the English football pyramid, sorry. But this should not be happening at a club like us, like any club in the Championship or the Premier League or anything like that. I think if it happens like 2-3 seasons in a row, you maybe go, yeah, we've just been really unlucky. But this has happened for longer, and at this point, you just go, well, is it unluckiness, or what's going on back behind the scenes that actually these players just keep getting injured? And so, and as well, there's also an argument to be made of, well, are we just signing a load of injury-prone players, which obviously you can't really tell. It's not like Football Manager where you get a little icon and you go, oh, they're injury prone. It's a lot harder to see, and I respect that. But if on a medical there is, I mean, I don't know how medicals work. Obviously, I'm sat in a university student room, but like, surely there would be something to maybe suggest, oh, this bit of the muscle or the bone or whatever might be weaker than on the other side, or something similar. And so it's just questions need to be asked of our physio staff, really, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, that's been the case now for the last 5-6 seasons. And I could probably name you every injury crisis that we've had, and it's been more than one injury crisis per season, I'd say, as well, on some occasions as well. And in the Championship, obviously, it's going to be such a demanding schedule, and like, you get there, obviously, but there's got to be some more adaptation. There's got to be some more research done into this, because if you're without your best players, then you're more likely to lose games, and that's just simple. And that has been too often for Norwich City. It really has. But next up for us is a game against Leicester at Carrow Road on Saturday afternoon. A 3 p.m. kickoff, and another game where you feel like it's going to be a tough one. And Norwich are going to have to battle. They're going to have to scrap. Leicester have had quite a mixed start, but probably maybe a poor start from their standards. They are mid-table right now as well, so they will be wanting to come to Carrow, trying to stamp their authority on the game, and obviously try and get 3 points, which they probably will do, because this team is quite frankly hopeless at Carrow Road, and they've shown that many times as well. And Matty, mate, again, like, you feel like the protests are going to ramp up, and to be honest, like, you don't blame the fans, because it's quite frankly unacceptable. We paid the second highest season tickets in the league, and we're getting dished up crap, and they've got the right to protest. Obviously, we want to get 3 points, as we are in a very, very bad situation right now. But the Leicester game, like, obviously you are based in Leicester at university as well, so maybe you can try and shed some more light on the Leicester perspective of things right now as well. And I would love to hear about that as well. But generally, can you see Norwich getting a win, even a point at this rate, please? Give me something?
No. I mean, from the Leicester fan perspective, they think they're having an absolutely worse season. They think it's an awful season. I think I don't think the arguments say they're having it worse than us right now, but from the Leicester fans I have spoken to, they feel similarly to Leicester than we do to Norwich somehow. But I've also spoken to a few of them, and it's just because, I mean, one person literally said to me that if the past 10 years hadn't have happened for Leicester, they wouldn't be too upset or anything. But because they have obviously won the Premier League, won the FA Cup, been around Europe, it hurts a lot more to see them back in the Championship and back in mid-table under a transfer embargo as well. But I mean, Leicester are still a very, very talented squad. I mean, Marty Cifuentes is a great manager. We've seen him; he's Championship proven. He was at QPR, if I remember correctly, before moving to Leicester. He was great for QPR. He's doing okay with Leicester. They've lost a lot of their star power. Obviously, Jamie Vardy left last season, which hurt them a lot. Bilal El Hanous, who was one of my favourite players last season, has gone on loan to Stuttgart in Germany. Facundo Buonanotte gone as well, back to Brighton, although on loan at Chelsea or Strasbourg or wherever. But they, like I say, it's still a very talented squad. Mavididi, Fatawu, the two of the sort of main players that I would single out. Still quite a talented defence as well. Ben Nelson, really good youngster as centre back for them, has shown a lot of promise so far. And obviously as well, Jeremy Monga, the 16-year-old, I believe, or maybe even 15-year-old. I think it's actually 15-year-old winger who looks great. Page as well. I can't remember their first name. It might be Jeremy Page as well. I can't remember. But another great young talent from the Leicester Academy come through in that midfield role and has got a fair bit of game time this season as well, I want to say. But ultimately, I know Leicester don't play amazing football, but their style of football will play us off the park completely. Especially when what we most likely can do is stick 5 players at the back and just park the bus for 90 minutes and hope that we don't concede, which that has shown to be an awful strategy and doesn't work at all. I mean, if we get a point from them, it would be like us beating Man City those seasons ago in the Prem. It would genuinely shock me. But no, I could see them at the very least maybe 2-0, but more likely a 3, maybe even a 4-0 on it. If I'm being completely honest, which hurts to say, and I'll get a lot of stick for it. But yeah, I can't see a way in which this Norwich side beats a weaker Leicester side than we've seen, sure, but definitely still a Leicester side with a lot of quality.
Matty, mate, I can assure you, mate, you're going to get no stick for that, as I'm pretty sure that's probably what 30,000 plus Norwich fans think as well. And I'm also share the same thought process where I think we're going to lose maybe 2-0, 2-1, and it's a shame really that we kind of almost go to Carrow Road now expecting to lose, but that's the situation we're in. And if the owners come across this, I highly doubt you will, because why would you want to listen to me? But if they do, my message to you would be, you've got to act now. You seriously do. We are in such a precarious position that we're looking over our shoulder. We've spent £55 million in the last 15 to 12 months, whatever. And the fact that we're so cut adrift at the bottom, and we probably are the worst team in the league, and it's quite frankly utterly abysmal. And if you think this is acceptable, and you're seeing all the quotes post match yesterday, and you think, yeah, a point here's a good result. I mean, we thought the rot, whatever. Then goodness me, you've got to start acting, because this is unacceptable. I know for a fact that Liam Manning will probably be here post Leicester, because Atanasio has expressed his high thoughts about Liam Manning. He has, and that's the case. But you've got to act. Liam Manning has got to get sacked. Ben Napper has got to go. Neil Adams has got to go. Zoe Weber's got to go, and everyone involved with the stadium process as well. You've got to seriously look at yourselves and think, do I actually deserve to be at this club right now? And the answer to that should be a plain out no. And that's the reality we are in. And if you're not going to positively challenge each other, if you're not going to try and find a solution to this matter and try and construct something, and you're so out of your depth, then please just go. Genuinely, show some humility, show some courage, and just walk away. I know you're only staying here for the paycheck, and you're probably laughing at the fact that you're still here because Atanasio hasn't got his arse in gear yet. I mean, you're probably laughing. You're probably laughing at me right now, and that's fair enough. But I will assure you, you guys have caused more harm than good to the football club. And to me, that hurts so much saying that, but that is the exact truth. And you've got to step up now, Atenaso. You really do. It's not baseball, mate. You cannot keep referring to your famous Milwaukee Brewers or whatever you're called, because this has got to change. We're Norwich City right now. We should not be expecting or having to deal with this lack of incompetence all the time. It's almost like we're giving up already before the season has already started, and it's just so poor. Every team in the English pyramid is laughing at us right now because we're so incompetent. We've got to make a change. Genuinely, you spent so much money on utter dross, and that's simply how it is. And until that dross might all of a sudden it might turn good, but I highly doubt it. I can't name one signing in the last 12 months where I thought, you know what, he's actually really good. And that is baffling when he spent almost 60 million quid. It is genuinely terrible. I've got nothing personal against these people, but my biggest love and affection is this football club. And if you're not going to change anything, and if you're going to continue being lackluster through the motions, then you can seriously go. Show some courage, show some determination, and fight for the badge, because I'm not seeing that at all at the minute. Every time we concede, the body language, the everything, it's just not what we expect and what we deserve. We've been some of the most loyal fans. I mean, 900 fans went every night to watch that crap. Literally, and I'm in such awe of those guys because they don't deserve this whatsoever. But right now, we're in a situation where it's so precarious. We're in deep trouble. Something has got to change. If not, we are going down to League One, whether you like it or not. So it's your choice. If you want to go down to League One, fine, continue. But I tell you what, your reputation with the fan base is going to be in the absolute mud. And it already is. And we'll continue to protest until you show some dignity, until you show some bravery, and until you show some humility. So please step up and get out the club respectfully. This isn't personal, but when you've done such a lackluster job for the last 4 or 5 seasons and you can't see that you are, then I've got serious problems. So respectfully, I wish you could just go away from our club right now because you have caused such mess. And Matty, I want you, mate, to have the last words on this episode. So please take it away, my friend.
Oh, it's difficult because you have said everything perfectly, and I feel like we think the same things, but I think you have taken the angry approach because you are, and which I really love, and I really wish I could honestly have, but I've just taken the apathy route where, because it doesn't feel like anything will change, and the fact that the board are backing Liam Manning, who is our worst manager in existence, who has not shown really anything, and even the Bristol City fans last year, none of them like him, and a lot of them were saying the only reason why they ended up going back onto that title charge was because Liam Manning had to step aside for a bit through circumstances, which is fair enough, and their assistant, is it Stephen Hogg?
Chris Hogg,
that's the one. Chris Hogg came in and started winning again and got the Bristol City players' hopes up, and that's why they ended up making such a big push for playoffs. And then they got battered by Sheffield United, which, when you see that, you go, oh. Which apparently, when Ben Knapp and that saw, they were like, oh yeah, that's the guy. Even though when back in the days of David Wagner, when we lost 3 or 4-0 to Leeds away from home, which by the way was a Leeds side that should have easily won the championship and in any other season would have, but that was enough for them to say, yep, okay, he's gone. But it's just apathy. I don't care about Norwich anymore, which is really sad for me to say, and I hate saying it because I bleed yellow and green, I do. But at the end of the day, there's 2 bets that I'd rather make in the championship right now, and it's Coventry to win the title and Sheffield United to end up above us, because at the end of the day, I can't see a world where we survive this season so far. And I know it's not even Christmas yet, and I know there's still so many more games to play, but I look at like a fixture list, And there's not a team on there which I can say, oh yeah, we can confidently beat these guys or anything like that. I look at the team and go, we'd be lucky to get a draw against most of these teams. We were lucky to get a draw yesterday against Sheffield Wednesday, who admit, yes, it was at home and away from home, and yes, they have this new sort of life now that they're away from Dej from Chansiri, which, by the way, Chansiri out, thank God. But I mean, it's just, where do we go when it's so obvious that there's no change going to happen? And like you said, Will, it needs courage. It needs Mark Anasio to sit there and say, screw it, I'm going to do this, and whatever happens, happens. Because at the end of the day, if we keep, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. This is it. We have reached the insanity period where we are doing the same thing over and over and hoping something changes, but we all know it won't. The players know, the backroom staff know, we as fans know, every other opposition team and fan and wherever else know. It's hopeless. It really feels that way. And not only does it feels like we're going to go down to a Plymouth where they got relegated and all of a sudden now they're really struggling in League One. It doesn't feel like there's much to be excited about. It doesn't feel like there's much to be hopeful about, because at the end of the day, it's all just been awful. And you mentioned the signings, you mentioned all this, and that plays a big part in it as well. But like, it's just, when we sold off to, I think the only way I can put it is when we sold this club off to Mark Anasio from Delia and Michael Wynne Jones, we appreciated they were long-term servants. We knew that they would always have the club in the right heart. We knew that they always cared about the club, but we knew it. They knew it was time for change. We knew it was time for change because they couldn't financially support the club to be what it was 10, 15 years ago. And we all knew that, and we all served them off with grace. And we gave them some hard times, but we all knew it was the right thing. But now it feels like we just want a Delia or a Michael back, because actually we know they care about it and we know they'd make the right decision, because under them, like, it feels inevitable. It would have felt inevitable that Manning would have been gone by now. He probably would have been gone by the East Anglian derby after that game, but if not earlier. But it feels like it's just a complete lack of care, and it feels like we chant our tunes and we protest and we say all this, but it's just whispers in the wind, and it hurts. It does hurt.
Absolutely, mate. And this hurt's going to continue, right? Because if nothing gets sorted, nothing changes, then we'll be in the same situation all season, and that will lead to League One football. I do want to apologise before we end, because this isn't personal. This isn't personal to Ben Napper, to Zoe Webber, to obviously to Liam Manning. Like, this isn't personal, but when there's so much fundamentally wrong with a football club, those people have got to be scrutinised and they've got to be held to account, because they're quite clearly not. They're quite clearly right now that isn't being the case. If I get my words out properly, and it just generally exasperates me. So I'm sorry for the language as well, if that has shown through to today as well. I really am, but I'm just like many other Norwich fans right now. I'm appalled at the situation, and all that's coming out to me is red hot steam anger, and that's going to continue if nothing gets sorted out. Before I end this video, I also just want to point you in the direction of Steve Cook, a friend of the MFW podcast and channel and website as well. He's wrote a fantastic article on the website as well, where he has perfectly outlined, much better than me, what is wrong with our club right now, and I would urge you all to have a look at that. It got released on Thursday afternoon, I believe, as well. So it should be there for all you guys to listen if you haven't. I'm really sorry if you haven't already. So I urge you to do that. But overall, guys, thank you so much for watching. Matthew, mate, you've been absolutely brilliant as ever, and I really appreciate you coming on with me today. Yeah, please do keep tuned on this MFW channel. We've got a podcast coming out. Should hopefully be Monday or Tuesday sometime. So that should hopefully be in your ears too. Hopefully there's some drastic change over the time. And finally, everything I said tonight and everything that Matt said tonight, it's nothing personal, but things must change. Protest well and protest morally, and don't go over the line, but something's got to change. And all I want to say is, I'm sorry it's comes to this, and this has been such a rant of a video, but something has got to change.